Fraction arithmetic. Okay, so this is adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing fractions. So the way we do it, adding and subtracting, there's one set of rules. Multiplying, there's a different set of rules. Dividing, we turn it into multiplication. So really there's only two things you need to know. You need to figure out how to add and subtract fractions, and then you figure out how to multiply fractions. When it comes to dividing fractions, we just turn it into multiplication. So let's look at an example. How do we add fractions? Let's start with an example. So let's say we have 23 25ths, and we want to add that to 9 30ths. All right, so a few different approaches here. We could first notice that the 9 30ths is not in simplest form. So we can find the common factor between 9 and 30 and simplify that. So let's do that. So maybe that'll make our work a little bit easier. So our 23 25ths is going to stay the same because that's already in simplest form. Then 9 30ths, we can divide both 9 and 30 by 3 to simplify that. So 9 divided by 3 is 3, and 30 divided by 3 is 10. All right, so now we have simplified 9 30ths into 3 tenths. Next, in order to add fractions, and this is the same for subtraction, we have to find common denominators. So we have right now a denominator of 25 and 10. We can think about the least common multiple between 25 and 10 by thinking about the multiples of 25. So that's going to be 25 50. Well, since 50 ends in 0, we know that 50 will be also a multiple of 10. So we can choose our least common multiple as 50. And we can then proceed to find common denominators of 50. So we ask ourselves, what did we do to 25 to turn it into 50? We multiplied it by 2. 25 times 2 is 50. As above, so below. So we also multiply our 23 by 2, and that gives us 46. So this is an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 50. So 23 25ths is equal to 46 50ths. And then likewise, what do we do to 10 to get it into 50? Well, we multiply by 5. As above, so below. So we multiply the denominator by 5. We have to multiply the numerator by 5. So 3 times 5 is 15. So now that we found common denominators, we add the numerators. So 46 plus 15 is mental math. That's 46 plus 10 plus 5. 46 plus 10 is 56, and 56 plus 5 is 61. So the answer here, let me just write that out. So we did 46 plus 15, and then the denominator stays the same. And then we add 46 plus 15, and we got 61. All right, so this is 61 50ths. And if we want to write that as a mixed number, because this right now is an improper fraction, we can write it as, we can say, okay, well, how many times does 50 go into 61? That's going to be one time. All right, 50 is only going to go into 61 one time. And then we say, what's the remainder? Well, if we do 61 minus 50, the remainder gives us 11. So that means that this was going to be equal to 1 and 11 50ths. All right, so to add fractions, we find common denominators, and then we add the numerators. All right, so then the next question is, how do we subtract fractions? How do we subtract fractions? So it's going to be the same process, except for this time, we're going to be doing subtraction, but ultimately it's the same thing. So let's say we have 25 30ths, and we want to subtract 5 9ths. So the first thing we notice that we have different denominators, so we have to find like denominators. But one thing we may also notice is that 25 30ths is not in simplest form. So perhaps we will want to simplify the 25 30ths by looking at the common denominator, or the common factor between 25 and 30. One common factor that jumps out to me is 5. So if we divide both 25 and 30 by 5, then we get 25 divided by 5 is 5. 30 divided by 5 is 6. So we have 5 6 minus 5 9ths. All right, 5 6 divided minus 5 9ths. And to subtract, we have to find common denominators. So we need a common denominator between 6 and 9. So we're looking at, to find the common denominator, we would need to find the least common multiple between 6 and 9. And the least common multiple between 6 and 9 is going to be 18, right? Because that's a multiple of both of these. So we're going to find that our common denominator is 18. And how did we get that 18? Well, we multiplied 6 times 3 to get 18. So therefore, we have to multiply that numerator also by 3. So 5 times 3 gives us 15. And how did we get 9 to be 18? We multiplied it by 2. So we also, as above, so below, we also have to multiply this numerator by 2. 5 times 2 gives us 10. Now that we have common denominators, we subtract the numerators. So we do 15 minus 10 over 18. 15 minus 10 is 5/18 is our final answer. All right? So this is how we add and subtract fractions. We find common denominators, and then we add or subtract the numerators, and that's it. Common student mistake is they get to this point and they say, oh, I know, I can simplify these fractions. And so they take this 15/18 that they just found and they simplify it back to 5/6. Well, you just move backwards, so don't do that, all right? So once you get to this point, you have common denominators. All you need to do is subtract the numerators to get your final answer. Or if it's addition, you add the numerators to get your final answer. All right, what about multiplication? So let's say we have 2/3 times, let's say, 2/5. So the beautiful thing about multiplication is you don't have to find common denominators with multiplication. Multiplication, all you do is multiply across. So this is going to be multiply numerator times numerator, and then multiply denominator times denominator. So 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 5 is 15. And that's it. That's all you have to do. All right? So look at another example. Let's say 4/9 times 1/15. Again, we do not need common denominators when we're multiplying. All we do is we multiply straight across. So this is 4 times 1 over 9 times 15. So 4 times 1 is 4. 9 times 15 is mental math. This is 9 times 10 plus 9 times 5. 9 times 10 is 90. 9 times 5 is 45. 90 plus 45 is 135. All right, and so the answer here is 4/135. Okay, now let's say we are dividing fractions. What do we do then? So let's say we have 11/18, and we want to divide it by 1/3. Well, all we have to do is turn this into multiplication by remembering the rule, and the rule is that division is equal to multiplication by the reciprocal. What does that mean? Okay, the reciprocal of a fraction is flipping it upside down. All right, so the reciprocal, to find the reciprocal of any fraction, we take the numerator, we put it in the denominator, we take the denominator, put it in the numerator. So if I take this division problem and I want to change it into multiplication, it would look like this. I change the division sign into multiplication, and then I take the reciprocal of 1/3, which would be 3/1. So now I have a multiplication problem. So all I have to do is 11 times 3 is 33, and 18 times 1 is 18, and that's it. All right, so that's big bad division. We just turned it into multiplication. A useful mnemonic in remembering how to do this is keep it, change it, flip it. All right, so to divide fractions, we keep this one the same, change it, change division to multiplication, and flip it. Flip this one by finding the reciprocal. Keep it, change it to multiplication, flip it, and then we multiply. So let's look at another one. So let's say we have 1/2, and I'm going to be ugly and write it like this, 1/2 divided by 19/20. Now this looks really scary, right? That's really crazy looking, right? Well, again, remember, this is just a division bar. So all we have to do is rewrite it in a less intimidating fashion, like this. This is 1/2 divided by 19/20. Oh my goodness, but it's division. What do? We keep it, so 1/2 stays the same. We change it, change division to multiplication, and we flip it. We find the reciprocal of 19/20, which is 20/19. All right? And so we do 1 times 20, that's 20. We do 2 times 19, that's 38. But here there is a common factor between 20 and 38, and that's 2. So we can divide our numerator and our denominator by 2. And so 20 divided by 2 is 10, and 38 divided by 2 is 19. So our final answer here is 10/19. That's it. Fraction